So I thought I would actually share a little memory technique which will allow you to play computer games, certain computer games, and to learn at the same time. So you might be wondering, how can I play computer games and learn at the same time? Which I've actually used in the past with a game called World of Warcraft. Part of the brain, the hippocampus and the temporal lobe, is very, very good at remembering places, right? You might actually find if you play a lot of games like World of Warcraft where you're exploring the world, you may notice that you kind of remember those areas. Now, one of the techniques I use when I'm actually trying to learn something is I'll get kind of like an audiobook or something, or maybe a video off YouTube that you can just listen to and learn, and I'll just play World of Warcraft at the same time. And I'll obviously try to focus on both. But here's the thing, you can actually boost your memory if you associate the thing that you're learning with the location that you're in. So, for example, I've got a lot of memories that are actually associated with areas in World of Warcraft, which, actually help me to remember, okay? I mean, the theory with memory is the bigger the memory is, the easier it is to remember, right? Because there's more for you to kind of grab onto to recall. You're thinking, should I play computer games or should I study? Now maybe you can do both. Another memory tip that I've used is if you're studying for your degree or whatever it happens to be, and you're kind of by yourself, right? One of the techniques that's really, really good is if you study for, say, an hour or two, then you have a little sleep, right? Just lay down in bed and let yourself go to sleep naturally in a dark room. Then actually, all of the stuff that you've learned will be cemented in your long-term memory, and this is a very, very useful technique for actually learning a lot of information at once. And the other thing you can do is if you read a load of information, then if you actually write a synopsis of it, then again you're having to recall it and it'll stay in your memory. Now, the best way to actually remember something is to make it fun and interesting, right? So if you're finding something boring, then the chances are you're not actually learning it, right? Even if you think you are, you're probably not going to remember boring things, right? Because when you deem something boring, what you're doing is you're telling your mind that this information is not important, right? It's boring. Try to have fun when you're learning. If you kind of get bored with studying, maybe try changing your settings, Go read a book in a coffee shop. Maybe listen to someone talk about something on YouTube. Or if you're doing a lot of technical writing, maybe get a voice-to-speech reader so you can actually lay down on your bed, close your eyes and actually listen to it that way. Actually getting different learning techniques is a fantastic way of keeping studying interesting and relevant. Another technique that's really, really useful is a lot of philosophers used to do this. It's called walking dialectic, I think. But basically, a lot of philosophers in ancient Greek, like I think it was Socrates, they used to walk around the place and they used to actually debate people, whilst walking around a garden, They wouldn't be sat in a classroom, right? Because when you're walking around the place, you're actually forming new neurons in the brain, believe it or not. Years ago, we used to think that when you were mature, that was it, right? You couldn't grow any more neurons in the brain, and that was just pretty much fixed. But now we know, actually, when you do things like you're walking, you're actually creating a lot more memories and actually forming new neurons in the brain. So yeah, get out of your room, go for a walk. Like I say, I'm absolutely in love with podcasts. Audible's good. Like I say, I used to use text-to-speech too. One technique that you could do is you could find a friend who's studying the same thing, and you could actually go for a walk with them, and you could actually talk about what you've been studying, right? And this is an absolutely fantastic way of putting what you've learned into practice, and you're going to remember it so much better if you're actually talking about it and using it and debating it than if you're just learning it and that's kind of it. Honestly, information is living, it's a living organism in your brain, right? And like any living organism, like a tree, for example, if it doesn't get constant use, it's going to wither away and die eventually. Maybe it'll just stay in your brain dormant, but nevertheless, if you don't use it, then you lose it, right? So if you want to make a memory really, really strong, recall it a lot, right? Recall it in different contexts, try to combine it with different ideas. Now, one technique I use to remember some people's names, I'm not very good with names, is I try to associate that person with something else, or a character from a series you might like. I quite often use Star Trek. There's a lot of different characters I know in there with a lot of different names. So you can associate someone with... if you can associate someone with a Star Trek character, then it's very easy to recall their name because you remember the person and you remember the character on Star Trek. And like I say, the bigger the memory is, the easier it is to recall. So if you're trying to learn anything, try to put it into a human context, right? We are humans after all, and we kind of view the world through people, through faces, through places, locations, even through food, through sensory information. Just contextualize the memory, put the memory into a context, so it won't just be a random memory, it'll be that character from Star Trek or whatever. Another technique that's often talked about, I don't often use this technique myself, but this is similar to what I was talking about initially, right? It's a memory palace. So, for example, you might think, right, I'm going to enter my house, and on the stairs I might see, I don't know, a piece of cheese, maybe in the door there's some cat food. You can actually build up a list of items, and then when you try to recall it, you'll think, okay, cheese is on the stairs, cat food is in the doorway, and it's a lot easier to recall that information because, again, you're using the temporal lobes, the hippocampus, in the same way that you can actually use certain computer games that have a lot of exploring, right? The last tip I want to share with you guys is set yourself a time. So you might say, for example, I'm going to study for an hour, or I'm going to study for 2 hours, and then I'm going to have a little break and I'm going to do something that I like for 15 minutes, right? And kind of ration out your time, keep maybe like a calendar, or keep some kind of plan, and kind of basically say to yourself, right, I can go out later and do this, that and the other if I can study for 2 hours, right? And I wouldn't really do much more than like 2 or 3 hours at a time, right? Because studying is incredibly intellectually difficult sometimes, and if you do too much of it, then you actually don't form the memories that you need to, right? Because your brain's going to go, first 45 minutes you might remember, and it's going to go blah 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 blah. Because again, like I say, if you're bored, then you're not going to remember it. And how do you stop boredom? Novelty, okay? So yeah, do something novel, do something original, do something different, Don't just study in one way. Thanks for listening, guys. Honestly, if you've got any memory suggestions, please leave them in the comments. And I really hope you found this beneficial. And yeah, good luck with your studies. Awesome. Hey guys, just wanted to give you a massive thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe. Give this a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. It's up to you entirely. But yeah, please let me know in the comments what you thought. And thank you very much for watching.